approaching your example trade for Nvidia this morning, Tim.
Good morning, Sam. And yeah, looking at it kind of in a similar vein as you and Marley were talking about, and the analysts were talking about, incremental, or what I term slight positive, certainly for Nvidia. I don't think it'll send the stock ripping to the upside. We're seeing it down today for that very reason, probably. But I think those kind of 175 lows we saw in late November and previously a couple times before that, major support down around there. So I'm kind of hanging my hat at that level. I would not be an aggressive buyer of the stock here, but on further weakness may get interested. So going out to next week's option, selling the 175 puts, hedging with the 172 puts. Want to keep it tighter than normal on the spread width, collecting somewhere around 50 cents, give or take, kind of like that just under 20% return on risk on the trade. Have about, 10 points or so downside from the current price of Nvidia for the stock to drop before the trade gets in trouble, and only have 10 days to go. Broadcom earnings, as you alluded to, might be the last big earnings report we see out there. Might affect Nvidia a little bit, but I think going forward, we're kind of stuck in this trading range, not only Nvidia, but the market overall, between the all-time highs and the recent lows that we saw. And I think it'll kind of continue into year-end, barring any kind of calamity coming out of the Fed meeting tomorrow, which I don't envision at all.
Yeah, 170, certainly the area of support there. That's when we saw certainly buyers stepping into this trade. But I mean, just one chip going to China, I suppose, is a bonus for this company because, its report looked good. Its earnings held up. That is ex-China. So, I mean, surely this is just being seen as a positive here. But just quick thought on the market today as we head into this FOMC decision come tomorrow.
I think, the 25 bip rate cut by the Fed absolutely baked into the market here. Certainly Fed Watch pointing towards a 90% or so likelihood of that, and probably 2 more rate cuts next year. So I think the market has kind of gotten what it's wanted out of both the Fed and earnings, which were good, not great here. So I think we're going to be probably in a trading range until further notice on the market. I think it's a good time to use option strategies, kind of like the put spread we just talked about, or selling some covered calls up above, position to be a seller on rallies, a buyer on dips until further notice. Kind of a trader's range market for the next several months.
Awesome stuff.
Started out this week a touch softer, and today it feels like we're in a wait-and-see mode. What's your take?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, yesterday we did see weakness pretty much across the board outside of the technology sector, and that was really driven by the semiconductor space, as we will probably talk about the Nvidia news here in a second. But you did not see this rotation trade, this weakness in one sector, that money moving over to another sector just did not come to fruition yesterday. And from a technical standpoint, you do actually question the S&P 500 at these particular levels. On Thursday of last week, we had kind of a indecision or a reversal candle potentially setting up here on Friday. We had the same, and then yesterday we did see a little bit of a follow through to the downside here. And I think the market is waiting for the FOMC meeting, but we're also waiting for another narrative to kind of come into the space. Even the Nvidia news yesterday, close to the close yesterday, obviously did fuel a little bit of a rally in some parts of the market, but we did not see everything in that AI basket really kind of move to the upside here. So I think we still are kind of, once again, in the wait and see. We have some economic data today. I think the 10-year bond auction will be very interesting, Diane, because this will be the first one where we do not have quantitative tightening policies from the Fed impacting this. It's going to be around $39 billion worth of bonds being offered here. And then also in the back of global yields kind of moving to the upside. So is the demand really going to be there for the bond yields, especially before the FOMC meeting? I think that could be another big driver for the market today. So let's say a little bit of a churn, a little bit of a pullback. But if you're looking at it from a bearish standpoint, you can make the case that we could see a pullback here post the Fed meeting, given the fact that we may see a hawkish cut in the next 24, almost 48 hours from now.
One of the things you talked about yesterday, KG, speaking of Nvidia, was watching certain levels on that one. And now it seems like we have a catalyst. I've fallen out of the habit of checking True Social every day, but back to it. You have President Trump posting about Nvidia there and the H200 chips. Take us through the latest here.
Yeah, you are seeing President Trump commenting on the H200, saying that he's giving the permission to actually export that over to China to specific companies at this point in time here, which kind of aligns with maybe some of the China commentary coming out this morning here. But this is a little bit of a reversal from what we have seen in the past. Now, this news item, Diane, is something that has kind of hit the wire maybe 2 or 3 times over the last month and a half or so. But now we are getting the confirmation from President Trump. What's also very interesting is the export of these H200s here are also going to carry a 25%, let's say, tax on them that the U.S. government is going to take in. Now, we do not have the firm structure on how that's going to play out, at least for now, but that's something that is in the works. And this, once again, is a little bit of a signal that the U.S. government and President Trump is willing to try to give an olive branch over to China, and probably in order to secure the rare earth metals and minerals, as well as those soybean purchases. So a very dynamic news cycle that we've seen over the last 24 hours. We are seeing Nvidia up about 0.8% in after hours trading here. You could also make the case, Diane, that this is kind of a lackluster response compared to the news headlines here, but it is trying to test that 50-day moving average. And from a technical standpoint, you want to be able to close above that level on large volume here, and maybe that could be that rotation trade where people find favorability within Nvidia because of the potential expansion of revenue growth within that China market.
And it feels like there's a little bit of a footnote at the end of this post on Truth Social. He says the Department of Commerce finalizing the details. The same approach will apply to AMD and Intel. He mentions another thing. I wonder if this is what's causing, kind of not a big move, because it feels like there's a tightrope act here, because you've also got the Financial Times reporting today that Beijing is working on limiting access, and they're, again, as President Trump mentioned, requiring approval, but buyers would have to justify why they can't meet their chips through domestic providers. So it's interesting. It feels like there's a lot of tension here. Any final thought on that before we jump into the latest issue with antitrust around Google?
Yeah, definitely. You saw that headline this morning. It kind of aligns with what President Trump did announce, though. At the end of the day, companies here in the United States are going to have approval. They can only export them to certain companies in China as well. Seems like that also aligns with China's policy. China really wants to build out their domestic production of advanced chips here over the long term, and there's still a perceived risk that we might see some geopolitical tensions between the U.S. and China in 2026 as well. So obviously, they're probably not going to let their guard down at this point in time and still try to force domestic consumption of these AI chips. And that's something that's not out of the norm. They do that with a lot of different industries within China here. So yes, that was a headline. Maybe we did see a little bit of a pullback when it comes to Nvidia, but I think the market, if you look at it holistically, the fact that they have the ability to sell something to China gives a little bit more of a revenue boost to them. Now, what's also going to be very interesting, this 25% tax or tariff or whatever they're going to consider this to be, is that going to be demand destructive in China as well? Yes, they are advanced chips. They're about 2 generations away from the current advanced chip from Nvidia. But is that enough from a price standpoint to really kind of discourage a lot of these China buyers as well? I think that's going to be something that we'll see over the next couple of months here.
All right, about this as far as what we got yesterday, because you and I were talking about the reporting, and then we got some more confirmation overnight as well.
Yes, we did get more confirmation. The president announced that Nvidia will now be allowed to export those H200 AI chips, while Washington will take a 25% fee on the sales. That is up from a previously announced 15% rate that was agreed to in the summer. So this is a modest departure from some of the export restrictions that the U.S. had placed on sending any of these cutting AI processors to China. Previously, the most advanced semiconductor that Nvidia was able to ship to the country was the H20 model, which Nvidia had specifically created this less powerful chip to comply with U.S. rules, but those had to be halted back in April. The H200 stands to be around 6 times more powerful than the H20. But it's not yet clear if this new policy will actually boost sales for Nvidia. Nvidia had previously reported that these export control impacts were roughly $4.6 billion in the fiscal first quarter and about $4 billion in the fiscal second quarter, because China historically represents about 20 to 25% of its data center revenue. Now, with this approval, this does not include its advanced Blackwell or Rubin chips. Those are not a part of the deal. We are starting to hear from some analysts, though. We got a note from Wells Fargo. They said they call it what they're saying, quote, an incremental positive. They think investors could see a $25 to $30 billion annual plus revenue, perhaps adding 60 to 70 cents a share EPS impact. They maintain their overweight rating. They still have their price target of $265, which is considerably higher than the $184 that they're trading at right now. Wells Fargo did flag several open questions, though. They flagged the incremental capacity allocation, what the approval process looks like for a Chinese customer to get their hands on an H200 chip, and whether NVIDIA can repurpose these written down H20 chips and that inventory they have to then be repurposed for the H200, as well as the 25% of revenue paid to the U.S. government. They're wondering how that's going to be controlled. Wells Fargo also had an interesting note that they felt that AMD and Intel could also both benefit here. AMD does already have a license for its MI308X chip, but the ban had cut their revenue guidance by about $700 million for Q2, about $1.5 billion for the year. Wells Fargo thinks that AMD is going to get licenses for its higher performance chips now, and Intel could also benefit. William Blair also putting out a note saying that they think that these chips will likely, what they say, drive upside to current expectations for NVIDIA's fiscal 2027 revenue. But I do want to note that William Blair did not change any of their forward-looking estimates, as they are, quote, seeking more evidence that China is putting in orders for the chips before coming more constructive on the stock. So, I think they're viewing it as a positive, but I also think that the analyst community is looking for evidence that these chips are actually going to be purchased. There will be customers for them. The restrictions on approving those customers aren't going to be too stringent. Some unanswered questions still here, Sam.
Yeah, and then the big question is whether actually Beijing will allow it, because obviously there's been some reporting around that. But as we know, what Beijing wants, the Chinese government wants, isn't always what Chinese companies want. And we've seen that, by the way, of some of the smuggling rings that have also been cracked down on too, to try to get those NVIDIA chips through the back doors. So, fascinating.
How significant is this?
It's a watershed moment if it plays out, and I believe it will. Look, our whole view is you don't want to give Huawei and China Tech more power. By taking NVIDIA out of that market, that's what they've done. And with that, you're talking about what could be 15, 20 billion a year. And I think this shows, and we've seen it being in D.C. a bunch the last few months. You're seeing changing winds there. There's a recognition that you have to give NVIDIA that market. You have to let that open, because otherwise China Tech gets an advantage. And for the first time in 30 years, U.S. Tech is ahead of China.
Well, first of all, you call it a watershed moment. The stock's up 1%. Really? Watershed? Yeah. Stock's up 1%. If it was such a watershed moment, wouldn't the stock be up more than 1%?
No, look, I view it as we go into the coming weeks, we're going to look at this as more and more China opens up. Even as Trump's going to do the visit there in April, I think this is more the tea leaves, because I view it, this is just the start of what's going to be an opening of that relationship. And I expect more and more. NVIDIA is going to be able to sell into that market, and that's not baked in. If you start to think about from a street perspective, the view is China very, very cautious, I'd say negative in terms of what that's going to ultimately be. I'd say the street's underreacting to what I believe is really going to be an opening up of what's going to be a golden opportunity for NVIDIA.
Christina laid it out, though. It's China could very well be like, thanks, but no thanks. The market seems like it's not willing to take a big leap forward, because there are many things that are still at play. Yeah, not to mention the fact that these are, already like 18-month-old outdated chips from the highest quality ones that NVIDIA produces anyway.
And still, I think 1 to 2 years ahead of where Huawei is. So it might be just being in Asia for 3 weeks. You go to any China big tech company, whatever they say publicly, at the end of the day, they want NVIDIA chips. There's only one chip fueling the AI revolution. I think this just signifies cool relations, and I think obviously a lot more positive between U.S. and China. That's bullish for big tech. It's bullish for you. It's bullish for AMD and others.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Would you admit that we have started to see some dispersion among the hyperscalers and among the mega caps on how the stocks are trading and how each one individually is now being viewed rather than a monolith? Would you admit that?
Yeah,
okay.
and I definitely.
Okay, so you would. So I'm wondering, at some point, can you have an outperform on an Apple, on an Amazon, on a Meta, on a Microsoft, and on an Alphabet? you're judging all of them equal when telling me that this dispersion that we've witnessed is legit, it's real, and it may continue to be the case. How would you come back with that?
Sure. Well, what I'd say is that when it's the 6th, 7th inning of this AI revolution, then you're going to have to separate out, and there's going to be clear winners and losers. Where we are today, I said it's top of the third, one out relative to this AI game. And when I look at the consumer AI revolution, it speaks to our Apple in terms of increased price tag, hasn't even started. So when I look at where Meta and what we see with Alphabet, what we see with Apple, I think that's just starting. Now, I think you will see the market ultimately, just like Microsoft right now and Oracle, almost putting in the penalty box. But I think that's the wrong way to view that. And I think you could pound the table or be much more bullish on certain mega caps versus others. And that's how we've tried to sort of characterize, what are the sort of the A, the B, the C group.
Well, let me kick off with a broad brush question as we head into 2026. I think many would describe you as a perma bull on the tech sector in the U.S. Anything change heading into 2026? Or still pretty bullish on the space?
Look, the reality is it's still 10:30 p.m. that AI party that goes to 4 a.m. Because look, in my view, when you look at this AI revolution, it's now going to the second, third, fourth derivatives. It's software, cybersecurity, infrastructure, power. And look, I think the bears, they're just going to continue to watch this party from the outside looking through the windows.
Is it the hyperscalers that are going to continue to lead the AI trade, or are we going to see more diversification into other layers in 2026?
Yeah, look, it all starts with Godfather of AI, Jensen, Nvidia, and now getting back into China. That's just another pop the champagne moment for them. But then you look at hyperscalers, you look at Microsoft, you look at everything that happened in Alphabet and Google. I mean, that's really been a massive turnaround story, right? I mean, I'd say the cab driver here in London was bearish on Google going into in the beginning of the year. Now, I mean, you're seeing it because, and I think you're just starting to see that in Amazon as well. But look, it's now going to spread use cases. That's why Messier AI, Palantir, in terms of what we're seeing there, MongoDB, Snowflake. I think that's going to be the trend here as the derivative beneficiaries of AI spread.
Dan, given that thesis on the derivatives, how much longer do you think this tech bull run has to go?
2 more years.
2 more years.
I mean, and I think that's conservative.
Yeah.
I believe we're going to be talking about NASDAQ 25,000, 30,000 over the next, 12, 18, 24 months. Look, this is a fourth industrial revolution. And as someone like myself that covered tech stock in the late 90s, you'll hear all the comparisons. It's apples to oranges. We're talking about humanoid robotics, autonomous. The consumer AI revolution hasn't even started. That's going to go through Cupertino. I think that's why you're seeing Apple make those major changes. And now you're seeing a cooling of tensions between the U.S. and China. That's bullish in terms of this AI trade.
Dan, in terms of 2 years, then sort of what, I guess, sort of pulls back that bull run? What derails it to some extent, in these cycles that we see in markets?
Yeah, look, we're going to have these white knuckle moments. I mean, you're talking about DeepSeek moment, Liberation Day, U.S. China, in terms of some of the sort of back and forth. Nvidia, can they go into the U.S.? Can they go from U.S. into China or not? But look, those white knuckle moments, those just create the opportunities to own the winners in AI. And that continues to be our view. Call it perma bullish, but the reality is I think investors are underestimating the scale and scope of what this tech trade looks like.